Hi, this is Marie Gibson, and I'm glad you joined me for a very brief discussion on use tax. This is QuickBooks in the real world and how you might be able to track your use tax in QuickBooks, although there's not a special button for doing that. So I'm going to share my screen and take us over to the desktop. And while I'm here, I want to share with you the easiest way to actually track use tax. And you're like, well, what's use tax? We just talked about sales tax. Sales tax is when you collect from the customer and you send it to the state. Use tax is for those items that you use in your own company, you use in your own projects, and you don't charge the customer the sales tax, then you're still required to pay the use tax in many, many states. I don't know if it's in all 50 states, but it is primarily in the Western region, in our Western states. So since QuickBooks doesn't have a button for use tax, I'll show you the easiest way to create this for yourself. It's a little bit of a workaround. And as you know, we like to get QuickBooks to sing and dance, so we don't have to do a lot of manual work at the end of the month. So here's a bill, and let's say that I'm buying, I've shared my screen with you, and I have my recording on. Yes, thank you so much. And I have a bill and I'm buying from Connor Garden Supplies, and I buy job materials that I'm going to use on a big project. And I'm not going to collect sales tax from the customer, the end user. And so at this point in time, I need to record a use tax expense at the point in time that I buy the materials and a use tax liability at the same time. But I don't want to change the bill of what I'm buying from Connor. I want this to be behind the scenes, something for my company usage that doesn't affect what they see. So $5,000 times 0.08265, that's my Washoe County sales tax and use tax. And yes, in this state, they're both the same thing. So my use tax expense, I would have an additional $413.25 attributed to the purchase of these items that I'm going to use in this project. Now, my use tax liability at the same point in time, right now, when I click my Save and Close button, also becomes $413.25. I owe that liability. And you can see that the way of getting it into our balance sheet correctly is to make that a negative. And by having a plus and a negative, they zero each other out. And the amount that's due to Connor is exactly what it was to start with, $5,000. So let's save and close this. Oops, I should have checked my dates on that. Let's go back up, vendor center, and you can see that QuickBooks makes it easy to get around with. And this bill was on the 24th of this year. Good, of the 2/25 year. Now I also just can do the same thing in my checking account. Let's say on the same date, I'm going to run down to the local nursery. I need to buy some tools. They don't charge me sales tax, and this is very common. And yet, because I'm buying these tools or miscellaneous equipment for in-house use, I'm still required to pay that use tax expense, and it'll be $600 times 0.08265. Oops, excuse me. And then I have a use tax liability, and it'll be for the same amount. Leaving that zeroed out, right? 49.59 minus 49.59. What we want to see is where those land on my reports. And remember, every single transaction lands on your reports. So the profit and loss, it's going to record those items that we bought. So I would have the job materials that it's recording. I'd also have the equipment and tools that it's recording. So the things are recording as profit and loss, those transactions that I'm buying, those items that I'm buying. However, also on my balance sheet, and let's close this a little bit better, I then have a use tax liability account that has added up to $462.84. Now, in our sales tax discussion, you saw how nice it was that I had a little button that helped me manage my sales tax. I don't have that button to help me remember to pay this. All I have is my balance sheet, and I should be reviewing my balance sheet on a regular basis. Our sales and use tax is due either monthly or quarterly. And so you'd get in a habit of remitting that to the state. And so in this case, I could use a check for $462.84 to pay that. And I would pay it just like a regular $462.84. Right, and it would go to the Nevada Department of Taxation, and it would be for the use tax liability. I'm paying the liability. Careful that you don't add use tax expense again. We already have it posted expense. We increased our liability. Now we're decreasing the liability. We record that, and that payment's made, and my balance sheet should go back to having no liability at this point in time. Let's close all these up. Thank you very much. And our use tax liability is gone. So thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you in our next module.